Congratulations, you boy 3500. What a vociferous and born in a shirt. Lucky Will, there is such an omen, chirped midwife. Lay down Alice's tiny belly, young mother smiling happily. My sweet, she whispered softly. Tomorrow I'll meet my dad. At the age of 28, he defended his PhD thesis and headed the Department of the English Language at the Institute. Ahead he had a brilliant career. His From the Capital Institute invited, but he decided to gain experience in his hometown. For almost 30 years he was still single. Everyone was looking for an equal, smart, educated, intelligent, from a good family. Is it true sometimes allowed non-burdensome intrigues with female students? Rector, although this was not welcomed, closed my eyes, if there were no consequences. Mr. Stewart was careful. Be indulgent with feelings, third-year student. Alice alone, God ordered. She just couldn't take my eyes off him. Mr. Stewart didn't even have to look after her, he just said, who will visit in the evening? Because they are blushing. Alice on the cheeks and eyes lit up, understood, what's in the little room, filmed, and the girl will expect him to have a set table and a blonde in love ready for anything. I'm not mistaken. After this night Faith literally flew and wanted to shout to the whole world, what is the best, smartest in the world? Mr. Stewart chose her, and they will be like people, wedding guests, and she will bear him 2 children, boy and girl. She, certainly, noticed, what about people Mr. Stewart Snow behaves emphatically cold, like they barely know each other, but attributed it to, that the teacher does not want to gossip before because of the relationship with the students. They won't pat on the head, even the head of the department. Here, take the application to the registry office, then it will be possible to go hand in hand to the institute with guests to Alice. Mr. Stewart cleared out, and it was so sweet to him with a pretty blonde, what the man forgot, but precautions if decide to have a baby, admit, don't expect more, said coldly Mr. Stewart. Thousands of women get out of such situations without consequences. I didn't promise you anything. I have a career, and parents didn't dream of attacking their daughter-in-law. For what created difficulties? Alice sat, bowed her head, and could not even cry. This is what happened. She figured it all out, and wedding, and son and daughter. All of a sudden, the girl straightened her shoulders. Toddler, I put, will you help? Thank you, but no, I will put it on my feet. From and without upsetting parents, and find your equal. But yet Faith hoped that a man would come to pick them up with their son from the hospital. We'll see, it's a little miracle, and his heart will melt. Still native blood. Mr. Stewart really came to pick up. Busily distributed flowers and sweets to the nurses, took the bundle from the hand, then raised, covered and surprised, what a swarthy, all in his grandfather. His name is Roy. Once looks like a grandfather, so it should be named after him, answered Alice. She hoped, what's it like, but he just peed. But the man was still not a very bastard. He recognized the baby, gave him his last name and patronymic, rented a separate apartment for a young mother, helped with money, and even confessed to his parents that has a child on the side. They were sympathetic to the son's decision not to marry uneven, but they wanted to see the grandson. Father Itzon was very nice, and that the grandson was named after him. He has already retired. Vanya was a late child and began to spend a lot of time with the baby, so that his mother could continue her studies. Roy became a frequent visitor to his father's house. Mr. Stewart already didn't like it. I wanted Alice to give birth, let her take care of the baby. Why would his family climb? How should he now bring a worthy woman into the house? I explain what kind of baby he is at home. Word, earring did not cause him any paternal feelings, rather annoyed after graduation. Alice got a job as a manager in an advertising agency. Such just started showing up. To teach at university, you need graduate school. But the woman gave all her free time to the baby. One day she had a severe stomach ache. Went to the doctor. The doctor advised me to go to the hospital for an examination, suddenly open the ulcers. Alice begged him to take an earring for a week or 2 while she was in the clinic. That agreed, since you really need it. A woman thought that this is a chance for the rapprochement of father and son when suddenly a man is imbued with a baby. Alice still loved him very much. On weekend, Earring with their older pacifier went on a carousel. After the boy helped his grandmother to make dumplings. He did well for a 3-year-old. Mr. Stewart pretended, who was reading a book, but watched his parents and son. How did he not notice before? What's next? Earring mom's wrinkles, and dad forgets about his arthritis. They are like 10 years younger. Heart cringed by the warm, previously unknown feelings when Earring approached him, sat on my knees, hugged Emila, looking into your eyes, asked, "You respect me?" 10 days flew by unnoticed until you caught yourself in thought that he likes to mess with the boy, put him to sleep, read a book, answer his many ridiculous questions. What's stopping me from doing this?" thought the man. Mother, Dad, and I have been hinting for a long time that a woman should not be chosen wisely, but with the heart. Alice, albeit simple, but very kind. Yes, and I gave birth to a son. Mr. Stewart met Faith from the hospital by car, leaving an Earring with parents. The woman turned out to be a slight exacerbation of gastritis, no major treatment needed. "Where are we going?" Alice asked anxiously, when a man turned the wrong way. "What goes to a rented apartment home?" I thought, that our son should have a normal family. "You do not mind?" Looked intently into the eyes. Alice smiled happily. Days flowed quiet and calm. Mr. Stewart taught, Faith continued to work as an advertising manager, Earring went to kindergarten. The wedding was modest, with almost no guests. That's why Alice's village parents, it turned out, saved up money for my daughter's housing. This was a wedding gift. We added a little of our own and bought a Kopek piece next door to Mr. Stewart, their parents' house. It seemed like, what else do you need to be happy? But fate has prepared Faith for many more tests. One day straight to the lecture, Mr. Stewart grabbed his heart and sat on the floor. To the hospital, failed to take the young teacher. Died in an ambulance. Doctors just shook hands, massive heart attack, heart disease. Getting younger. Left Alice one with beloved son. Certainly, parents were helped, and on vacation the boy could be sent to his village. But without Mr. Stewart, everything was wrong: work, house. Faith, and didn't notice how you met your 30s. To not be bored with Roy, Alice decided to get a small dog. Documents, so all of ours had a long name, but she quickly dwindled to a banquet. Puppy was upbeat and cheerful, not shoes, filled with noise, a quiet apartment. So another year has passed, and one day bathhouse lost. Somehow on a walk, Alice let your pet off the leash. He rushed into the bushes. Woman first called him, and then she rushed through the thickets, but could not find a pet. Some weeks Alice Earring every morning and every evening came to the park to find a friend. Clylie announcements on poles, submitted to newspapers. Useless. Alice slowly walked through the evening park on the last working day of this year. Tomorrow, the company arranges a New Year's corporate party, and then the long weekend. How she didn't want to go to the party. "So this is your dog?" he asked. "He came to me a little over a month ago. Rushed right at your feet, whined. It is seen running away from a big dog. I took myself." He asked first hosts, advertised in the local newspaper, but no one responded. Certainly, I will return your dog, but you must promise to have dinner with me in return." New Year's, the meeting turned into something more. Fight, Faith felt like youngsters in love. "Mother," he was told, "I see, Alice, you got someone. This and right, young, it's too much for the widow's share. For an Earring, just in case, we will look after." Albert worked at a local bakery as a technologist, previously married, but divorced. Where fate did not give such a machine. But he quickly found a common language with Earring and became a good friend of the boys. Gradually these relationships developed into family, and Albert Alice decided to get married. Live they are not bad, but brother or sister Roy could not give. I have some problems, Albert thought, but because we are so good, Roy, I consider my son. Here Alice became very suspicious over the years, especially when, one by one, his parents left for a better world, also from heart disease. Own an earring shaking, like over a baby, although he already studied Sasha's classes, afraid to let go. At the party, I was watching who I was friends with, communicated with, and was dragged to the doctors, but they unanimously repeated, "Your son is perfectly healthy and his heart is working, like a powerful motor. There are no prerequisites for excitement." Then Roy moved to 11th grade. Alice felt that the son moves away and hides. Albert said, "Leave the guy at ease, he is already an adult." But Faith worried even more and decided to follow her beloved son. I suddenly saw what leads Svetka under the handle, a girl from a so-called dysfunctional family. When Beverly NPA Page got drunk, their whole big yard knew about it. He violently quarreled with his wife. Naked, also not bewitching to lay behind the collar. About that couple also violently reconciled. As a result, the most successful truces were 6 children that grew like weeds. Beverly, there were 2 from the brood, that was the name of the children of evil town neighbor. "Son, aren't there good girls at school from decent families?" asked Alice Roy Sunday morning, when the sleepy son went out to have breakfast. "Twist it, you're not a career, not life is normal and will." Roy is surprised, how does mother know? If only yesterday he mustered up the courage to call Beverly for a walk. After understanding what Faith and followed him, pushing the plate of steaming dumplings aside and saying, "Not climb, Mom is not my business." Forgot, as grandfather said, that love must be chosen by the heart. I chose it. Alice once again started a conversation about an unsuitable girlfriend, asked to wait at least until admission to the university, but Roy at first brushed aside, and when Mother's Science got in, she ran away from home. "Fool, I want you to be happy," screamed Alice after. Roy graduated from novice school, decided not to, got a job in a car repair shop and moved into the apartment of his grandparents, who did things for him along with Svetka. In the fall, he was drafted into the army. Roy decides how it serves, so they Beverly and get married. Faith prayed, lit candles for health, to God save her son. But in 6 months he called only twice and wrote 3 letters about his beloved. World points recorded almost every day. Faith knew exactly about it, because he constantly conveyed greetings from Roy. Somehow a neighbor reported that Alice's daughter-in-law was escorted home by some frail boy. Woman immediately wrote a letter to her son, that Sveta, maybe, doesn't like him much, because people talk about it. I didn't come up with it myself. Drives men in an apartment, where's she, proper, nobody. Calm down, mother, answered Roy, my light, and do not walk with anyone. About this is not the guys would have let know long ago. About, accompanied by her cousin. I beg you, don't try to separate us, if you are given a choice, not sure, that I prefer you, read Faith's son's answer at work. Yes, I burst into tears so much on the glass. Calm. To console, colleague Tatiana approached her, let's go, let's drink coffee. I will tell, what's happened. And Alice, sobbing, shared family history. Confidently said, bewitched your son this. But nothing, I know a fortune teller, she helped me too. Husband started walking. Took his shirt, cards, looked at the pipes and whispered something. I'll stay at home, like sewn on. If I can tie a man like that, the lapel will do. Here, hold the phone. Faith didn't really believe in mysticism, but the fortune tellers decided to go, you never know. Albert, certainly, didn't say he would start talking. Man was an atheist, didn't even go to church, and already did not believe in fortune tellers at all. But Alice nevertheless called the sorceress and arranged a meeting. The fortune teller lived in the suburbs, in a small private house. Took a bunch of Roy, their old things, down to the panties. To her an elderly woman opened the door. Faith from the threshold said, to me no need to guess, son lives with the wrong girl. Do so, not to be together. She bewitched him. The fortune teller said, "What do you need to see first? Go by maps." Reported that he does not see the spell, but the son is faithful to Beverly will not come back, they won't live together. Alice, I did not remember myself from happiness, when driving home, when I went to the apartment, noticed that a white dove with black marks sits on the windowsill and literally looks out the window on the wing. "Oops, not good, this is not good," Alice whispered. In their village, such a sign was considered not good. Old women spoke, what an ending this is when Albert came home from work. Told him about going to fortune tellers. A pigeon. But he just laughed, same found me an omen. These lots of pigeons here, people feed, here they are not afraid to sit on the windowsill. Think, white bird with black markings. More often run to fortune tellers, it still doesn't come to mind. Nothing bad happened the next day. Again, Alice found out that she is pregnant. She became even more disgusting, worried about literally everything, and most of all they are born crumbs to give birth all 40 years. Albert beamed and persuaded his wife, "Well here, are you nervous about something? A miracle is to be celebrated. Drawing disturbing pictures in my head, just wasting your nerves. All fine, a baby will be born, Adam, Roy back from the army, Janice and Flower will go from fun will be, when an uncle or aunt with nephews has nothing to do. A 40 is not old at all, yes, and the doctors say, what are you cool?" But Alice, everyone was worried and worried. Letters from Roy haven't been for a long time, but Albert said that he's all right. To him, Beverly said. However, Faith had a bad feeling. She began to suffer from insomnia, praying and crying at night. Albert, used to waking up in the middle of the night, will see that there is no wife and goes to the kitchen, grabs your shoulders and leads you back to bed. Faith, hearing the peaceful snoring of her husband, gets up again and returns to the copy. Child more and more aware of his existence. Gentle beat with tiny fists and knees in my mother's stomach. But Faith, like you didn't notice, didn't talk to the baby, did not sing sweet songs, did not gnaw once again on the already very noticeable belly, for thoughts were with the eldest son. Where he, why not call, does not write, what's happened exactly something happened, otherwise he would have at least conveyed some news, Alice interpreted. So he got mad at you, Albert explained. Nothing, the army will have to make peace. Although I suspected something was wrong, and Beverly complained to him, what from Roy no news for a month, already on what in earnest to worry about the guys, however pregnant Alice didn't show it. Doubts and anxiety, this is what the unfortunate Alice had to live with. Was approaching Roy's birthday. At night in front of him the door had a dream. As if she were sitting on a bench under a big tree and, holding Roy's hand, white, dressed, smiling and happy. Speak falcons and black-eyed. Mother, I'm a little tired. Maybe, I will go to my grandparents. My hour came. It's a pity that I won't see you. But don't you dare be sad. What do you need? I did it already. To me, it is nice here. Soon help will come to you. No need to mourn for me. I love you, Mother. Listen to sweat. Understood Alice, what dies, and son. Tried take a deep breath, but suddenly felt a sharp pain. The women were taken away in an ambulance. Fine, arrived quickly. Births were heavy, which is not surprising, did a cesarean section. You Faith, a healthy and beautiful boy was born on the same day, and Roy 20 years ago. Hear and help. Then came the terrible news of the death of Roy. It turned out, he, along with 2 colleagues, was sent to guard an ammunition depot, which was in a secret area. That's why the guy could not submit news about himself for a month. Then something went wrong. Because of what caused the explosion, unclear. Military command understands. That, what's left of Roy, sent to relatives in a zinc coffin. No, nothing worse for a mother than burying your own child. How Faith experienced the worst day of my life, she doesn't remember. Newborn came back, demanded milk, but he was not. From the burn in Verony, the body is burned. Unknown, how would it all end, if not fight? Man was able to feed the baby, arrange a long vacation for himself and Alice, and organize the funeral. Helped his mom and dad. Alice came from the village too. His own mother. The man did not really know, he left the family when was still a child. Faith, I came to my senses only on the 40th day, at the wake, and I suddenly felt a shock. If she won't control herself, lose your second son Billy. Need to somehow live on. She reconciled with to the world and said that she lives for free in Roy's apartment. Still almost a woman. Young woman enrolled in Peru school and after 3 years, to its end, moved out of the apartment. Came out to marry a guy. I am from another city. Wrights was a fortune teller. Earring to Beverly, knew too, that the prophecy will thus come true, sighed Alice. Albert took his wife, tried to ease the pain of loss. He understood, to save the marriage for many years, must be loved and respected, be sure to trust the second half, and find a way out of a difficult situation together. When there was some misunderstanding, first we went to reconciliation. Could keep silent, not to stir up a quarrel. Maybe, if it wasn't for the bar, the woman could not stand it and laid hands on herself. Billy was pleased. Parents. He grew up not capriciously, take it easy. Boys quickly learned to read, out of 5 years already sitting behind books. Slowly the sharp pain went away, and the animal heart remained only from the day of cabbage soup, and a sense of loss, and own guilt. But nothing could be changed. Albert urged Tyre that it's not her fault, and urged to live in the present. Fate and bad omens, he still does not believe. On this day Faith came home from work earlier. She decided to cook a delicious dinner, delight your little family with your favorite dishes. Especially since my mother also transmitted vision through a familiar driver, a large piece of lard and a smoked boat. Section him and meat. Alice accidentally looked out the window. On the window sill sat the soil, white, black spots on wings. Woman cried out, cut the police out of surprise. Throwing cooking, she rushed to the kindergarten for Billy. There everything turned out to be okay. Faith took her son and ran home. From there called her husband. Bear said, what will be soon, and began to calm down again, speaking, that there are a huge number of pigeons in the city, a third of them are white, and the old neighbor loves to feed the birds, here they are grazing on the windowsills. Perrault Albert the first bought a bottle of wine to calm my wife's nerves and Billy's chocolate. At home helped prepare dinner, to distract Faith from bad thoughts, and turned on the TV Fallen News, where they talked about the repair of a military hospital in the neighboring region. All of a sudden Faith grabbed my heart, there Roy. But the camera was aimed at a complete stranger, a hospital patient. Dates what I do not talk nonsense, Albert began to comfort. You it seemed no. This guy Roy on the eyes and a birthmark on the neck, the same was with his grandfather and father, is inherited. Skin again swarthy, like grandpa, Alice answered. Albert decided to deal with the situation. He called my journalist friend, he found out who prepared the news block. Albert, taking with him Alice's boxes of chocolates and, certainly, bottles, went to the neighboring area, where the hospital was. He managed to find out what a guy, caught in the frame, name is Naya, rather, everyone thinks so, because he has amnesia, and the young man himself, Roy's former colleague, lone survivor of an ammunition depot explosion. Back home, Bear told his wife, maybe, you're right, can you go, Faith, to the hospital? Chance, what is Roy? There is, but not very big, because there should be a serious check on this. Hospital shone with purity, and it was seen that only recently the renovation was completed here. More smelled like fresh paint. On dining rooms on the ground floor, cafeterias and pharmacies. Long corridor to deserted. Only elevators stood alone for the visitor, which carried passengers from the 1st to the 9th floor. Alice was pleasantly surprised by the facilities of the hospital, and wondered why only a few people gathered at the doctor's offices. rose to the correct floor, stopped near the wide-open doors to the ward. Attracted attention to numerous icons on the table and on the walls. From the corridor, it was difficult to see them. That's why Faith stepped on the threshold and was embarrassed. On the side of the bed lay a man with a fluffy blonde beard. She greeted him, apologized, but he, smiling, invited to go into the ward and sit in a chair. Comfortably settled down, Faith drew attention to the extinguished candle, means, prayed here recently. Looked on a man, and eyes met by chance, and saw in them the blueness of the sky. His sincereness and his smile inspired confidence, desire to get to know each other. Man introduced himself to Logan Contractors, returning from a hotspot. He was a roommate of Naya, that was the guy's name, in which Alice recognized her son. Logan told her, what Nyack took a long time to recover. I drew, his hand was collected in parts, but the guy doesn't remember anything, serves himself, is reading. But who are his relatives, friends, spacebar, what Logan himself thinks. Quite, can this happen, what Naya son of Alice, he knew by business trip, which belonged to the ill-fated warehouse, and that person was not very pleasant, rather cynical. Quite could solve after the chips, what is more profitable to leave orphanages alive. Naya, the survivor, still does not remember anything about the funeral, send 2 other guys to relatives, a lot, burn and stop, son you will not return, from the living can start disassembly. Faith quietly cried into a handkerchief. Logan same said, what Naya year will return from the procedures and God give it will be true son. Quiet steps, approaching the door, announced an imminent meeting. A young man entered the room, completely shaved and with a scarred face and head. Left the brush was unnaturally turned out, but relatives watched someone else's unfamiliar face Roy and eyes. The guy was not Slavic swarthy. From grandfather, Alice remembered, like a birthmark on the neck. She gazed intently into the stranger's face and made sure that is her son. He also looked at the woman, winced, as if driving away a veil before my eyes, and then asked uncertainty, mother. In hometown Faith returned as a son. Boy insisted on genetic testing, which confirmed that he is Roy, Alice's own son. Gradually he recalled his life before the army, Beverly, but she was already married. Nothing, meet another, we will accept any, Alice rejoiced. Roy hugged mother and said. The main thing, and now all together and even with the addition. I stroked the bright crown of his brother, who does not suit, but the smile was very similar to him. So that a white dove with a dark spot on its wing a sign of a good to this happiness.